Hello everyone, my name is Jibril, and today I'll be talking about my reflection on what I've studied about programming for the last few weeks. So firstly, I would like to talk about variables. So as you can see, these are the few types of values that can be stored by variable. The first one is a string type. Second one is also a string type, but it contains a number, but it's still counted as a string due to the quotation marks. The third one is it is counted as an integer, and the last one is a float, which contains decimal number. So as you can see, these are the few types of values that can be stored by a variable. Now the common question asked by people: what are the differences between the two types of quotation marks, single quotation mark and the double quotation marks? So for the single quotation marks, is usually the case where it cannot contain print or hold or escape sequences directly. For example, in this function where the names is being called in this print function, it will not work because single quotation mark doesn't allows print escape sequences. So therefore that's the differences between single quotation mark and double quotation mark. So moving on now, as for this program, I'll be talking about standard output and standard input. So to begin with, for the standard output, usually they use two syntaxes, puts and print. So what are the differences? So as you can see in the program, when you print out the both hello world, you can see that one line is being integrated with the next function, which is what's your name. So clearly from this you can understand that puts by default has a line break in it, whereas print doesn't have a default line break. So therefore you can add this function clearly for you to understand that if you do like this, it will add in by default a line break, and yeah, you will see it like this. So yeah, so now I'll be talking about standard input. So as you can see here, the syntax we use to get input is gets, and the syntax chom is used to remove line break. So as you can see here, for the first input, I will just type in my name, and then you can see I print out my name, meaning the value is correctly stored in the variable. And as for the next one, I use 2i, meaning to convert the input into integer. So when I press this, it becomes this. Now the last one here, it's converting the input into a float, meaning it will be a number with decimal. So I'll just put in 15.2 and it will be 15.0. So that's how you use the input functions. So now I'll be talking about the selection function, the loop function, and basically how different functions work in one program. So firstly, I would like to explain about the selection function. So as you can see here, we use if statements and else if and else. Basically these are like the three main components of selection functions. For this, as you can see, like there are these statements are called the condition statements. So for example, selection function is usually based on true or false value. So for example, if h is equals to 0, it will put this output, so meaning that it will follow the condition. So if the condition is true, it will proceed to its action, or else if it's false, it will proceed to the next condition, and it goes on and on until the program ends. This is for the selection function. Whereas for the loop function, we add in a loop syntax. For example, for my case in this program, I use while loop. So it's also like a condition, so saying that while it's true, this selection function will be repeating itself so long as it's true. So in this case, it is a infinite loop. So this is the reason why I add in the break syntax inside. So these are the conditions that I want the user to key in, and not this one. So as long as they put in the h is equals to 0 for this variable, it will print out impossible and it will loop the function again and again. And lastly, for the function, for the purpose of using functions, multiple functions. So for example, as you can see here, I only use one word. I call out the function food. Now you see there are 3 lines of code here, which is like put, you print out, and then you get in the user input and output, basically standard input and output. But then I separate the functions and I make it simple for my main function to call out, to execute the function. So therefore I just type in the function food and it will call out this whole function. Indirectly, the purpose of the using multiple functions is to save space and make the code looks more neat in a sense. So therefore, that is the whole purpose of functions, and I will just call out the main function so that the program will execute as how I want it to be. Thank you very much for watching this video, and I hope whatever I've explained earlier has been informative for all of you.